I'm here with Laurel Fadness, a UI sophomore and an RA in Catlett Residence Hall. As the Climate for Change theme semester continues and April is Earth Month, I sat down with Laurel to talk about some of the sustainable initiatives on the UI campus. So, Laurel, can you tell me a little bit about what you know about the Climate for Change theme semester and Earth Month?
I don't know very much, but I've noticed a lot of initiatives popping up around campus, a lot of fun events. I think that it's usually the Environmental Coalition that does them, but I see a lot of events on Facebook, so they're marketing them pretty hard.
Can you talk about some of the events that you've seen on Facebook, some of the ones that you mentioned the Environmental Coalition is doing?
Yeah, I think that they're doing a pop-up clothing swap thing on the T. Ann Cleary walkway. I think that people just will bring their old clothes and swap them out for other people's old clothes, and I think that's really cool because thrifting is pretty cool, but also all the work that goes into manufacturing new clothes is kind of a detriment to the environment, so that's awesome. And I've also heard about the bag exchange where people are bringing their plastic bags so they can be recycled correctly, and in exchange they'll get a reusable bag for their groceries or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. So, the theme semester has been going on since I believe 2015 or 2016, and previous theme semester themes have included Our Lives Online, which kind of took a look at how technology has kind of played a role in 21st century education. So how do you feel that this semester, as an RA, how do you feel that this semester kind of stacks up just in terms of advertising for events? Do you see a lot of flyers around campus for this kind of stuff?
Yeah, I've seen a decent amount of flyers, especially in the residence halls. It's nice because there's a significant amount of recycling that the university pushes. Like, we have single stream recycling, which makes it so much easier, and every dorm room has a recycling bin and a garbage can, so it really encourages people to recycle more.
I know that one of the things the Environmental Coalition is talking about doing next year for recycling in dorm rooms is implementing compost bins in dorm rooms. What do you think about implementing that?
I think that that's a great idea, and I don't know how much people would use them, but I think that it would be worth a shot to have, because I know I had friends last year that lived in Mayflower, so they bought their own food, and they were a little bit upset that they couldn't compost their disposable waste.
Definitely. So, you mentioned different residence halls on campus. Do you think that residence halls that are farther away from campus maybe are at a disadvantage when it comes to recycling and composting?
I'm not sure a disadvantage, but for example, Mayflower, it's hard to feel in the loop of like what the other dorms are doing, so they kind of feel out there and not super involved.
Definitely. So, kind of returning to the Climate for Change theme semester, one of the events that's happening on campus soon is the former chief scientist of NASA is coming to discuss climate and sustainability and kind of the future of those fields,
yes,
especially on college campuses. So
I saw that's with the lecture committee too, isn't it?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, so what do you think about kind of having these big thinkers and people that are kind of significant in the sustainability field coming to the university and kind of, I think a lot of this funding comes from UISG, the student government.
Yes.
So do you think that that's a good allocation of funds?
I think so. I think that whatever we can do to encourage healthy sustainability habits on campus is a good thing, and lots of times people just don't know what's going on. So as much information as they can get out there, I think that that's definitely a good thing.
You're a sophomore now, so how have you seen sustainable initiatives kind of evolve throughout your 2 years here on campus?
Well, I think I align myself with people who are big recyclers, so I think I've always had that advantage. A lot of my friends just care about the planet a lot and are really into recycling. So I'm thinking that I maybe haven't seen it as much, but from a small town and they're not so big on the sustainability thing, so I think just like the transition into college where there was programs that were excited about getting people to recycle and use less water and eat less meat and stuff like that. I think that that is just the biggest thing that I would have noticed.
And you brought up eating less meat. Could you talk a little bit about, I remember in January when the university started implementing meatless Mondays, and there was kind of an adverse reaction from the community and from local farmers. Can you talk a little bit about why you think that happened?
People tend to think that by not eating meat, it is taking away a entire financial industry that, being in Iowa, it's really close to home. So that stresses people out because they think that people are being disrespectful to farmers. But they forget that farmers also do other kinds of agriculture, like vegetables. So I think people are just stressed out by the thought of something different. And that kind of bothers me because it's one day a month, and it's also just a suggestion. They're still serving meat in the dining halls. They're just encouraging people to eat less meat because it has a huge environmental impact, whether people want to admit it or not.
So how do you feel about, in terms of students, have you seen any adverse reactions from your residents or any other students?
Well, on social media, I think people get the angriest because, they're behind a screen, so they can kind of just say whatever they want and think out their reaction a little bit more. But I saw a lot of tweets, for example, of people who are pretty bitter about the whole thing. But in general, everyone that I've talked to has been like, they don't care, or they think it's a great thing.
Kind of jumping back into the whole recycling and composting aspect of things, you mentioned to me before this interview started that you have a number of friends who live off campus, off of the resident, not in residence hall, They live in apartment buildings.
Yes.
And effective January 1st, there was an ordinance that said that your landlord would be fined if you didn't recycle cardboard.
Yes.
So what have you noticed about, you mentioned the single stream recycling in residence halls. How do you think that differs from off-campus living?
Well, as far as I know, at least a lot of the people I know have dumpsters for their apartments, so that's also like a single stream recycling thing, but you can't recycle glass, which is strange. And I think that the cardboard ban is good and important, but it seems a little bit difficult to enforce because...
What makes you say that?
Well, how do they know who threw the things away? I know they find the landlord, but what does the landlord do with that? I feel like it's hard to, point a finger at it, but I think that it's a good measure. But I'm not super informed on any of this because I am not in an apartment.
So just in terms of resources on campus for students, you mentioned to me before that you're vegetarian.
Yes.
So do you think that the dining halls at the UI have ample resources for vegetarian and vegan students?
Vegan, I don't think so. I've had friends that were vegan while they were living in the dining hall, and they struggled sometimes to find enough to eat. There's always, side things, like French fries and, vegetables and stuff, but sometimes that's not enough for a person to eat. So I do think that the vegetarian options are good enough. They're not great, but meat options are obviously better just because it's a bigger demographic, but they're okay. I don't have a problem with them. I don't know how well that would go over with the general population of students who use the dining halls.
Definitely, and kind of going off of that a little bit, for your friends who live off campus, as the price of tuition goes up, do you think that it's going to be, and I don't know this because I'm not vegan or vegetarian, but do you think that as the price of tuition goes up, it's going to be harder to maintain that lifestyle because it's more expensive?
It depends on how you are vegan or vegetarian. If you're buying a bunch of substitute meats and substitute cheeses, it is going to cost more. And if you're really into superfoods and stuff, it's expensive. But being a vegetarian and just focusing only on getting enough nutrients is actually cheaper because meat is expensive and people don't. This is not taking into factor fast food or anything like that, but per production, meat is much more expensive than beans and grain and stuff like that. So that's a big myth that people have, that it's more expensive and that it's for only rich people. But I don't know. They struggle sometimes, but everyone struggles. Having enough money while living off campus.
So kind of wrapping things up, looking forward on the University of Iowa campus, you have 2 years left here, obviously.
Yes.
So how do you
hope. We hoped only 2.
So just in terms of sustainable initiatives in the future, what are you kind of hoping the University of Iowa kind of adopts in terms of sustainability?
I don't know if I'm creative enough to come up with my own examples, but I just hope that they keep rolling with what they have. I think that in general, they're doing a really great job of having a diverse like group of things and doing a lot of events that like get people excited. And I know like the student government elections recently, a lot of people's platforms were about focusing on like university sustainability. So I think that that's great. So we know that we have people with their heads in the right places. We just have to keep going, and hopefully more people will care about it.
Okay, well, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. This has been an interview with Laurel Fadness, a UI student and RA in Catlett Residence Hall, discussing some of the sustainable initiatives that are going on right now at the University of Iowa. Thank you so much for listening.